He worked all night, caught nothing. Then Jesus said, "Try one more time." Everything changed. Luke chapter 5 is not just about fishing. It is about failure, exhaustion, trust, and what happens when Jesus steps into a situation that feels impossible. Because sometimes God allows your strength to fail, so you can finally see His power clearly. Part 1. The night that produced nothing. Luke 5 begins near the Lake of Gennesaret. A crowd gathers around Jesus to hear Him teach, but nearby, fishermen are cleaning their nets after a long night of work. One of them is Simon Peter. He spent the entire night fishing and caught absolutely nothing. No fish, no reward, no result, just exhaustion. And honestly, this is where the story becomes relatable. Because many people know what it feels like to work hard and still see nothing change. You stay disciplined, you keep trying, you pray, you remain patient, but the breakthrough never comes. And after enough disappointment, frustration becomes personal. You stop questioning the situation and start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe nothing will ever change. Peter probably felt some of that too. Fishing was not new for him. This was his profession. He understood the lake. He knew the timing. He had experience. But experience alone was not enough that night. And sometimes God allows seasons like that. Seasons where human effort reaches its limit. Because when everything depends on your own strength, it becomes easy to trust yourself more than God. But empty seasons reveal weakness. And weakness often becomes the place where God begins to work differently. Peter's empty nets were not the end of the story. They were preparation for something bigger. Part 2. Jesus enters the failure. Luke 5 says Jesus stepped into Peter's boat. That detail matters. Jesus chose the empty boat, the unsuccessful boat, the boat connected to disappointment. And that reveals something important about Him. Jesus does not wait for perfect situations before He enters people's lives. He steps into broken places first. Many people think they need to fix themselves before coming to God. But throughout Scripture, Jesus repeatedly moves toward imperfect people. He met Matthew while he was still a tax collector. He called Peter while he was exhausted and discouraged. He spoke to people everyone else ignored. Jesus was never afraid of messy situations. And maybe that matters for someone listening right now. Maybe your life feels stuck. Maybe disappointment has drained your motivation. Maybe you feel spiritually tired. That does not push Jesus away. Peter was exhausted when Jesus stepped into his boat, and that moment became the beginning of change. Sometimes Jesus enters the place where you feel weakest because dependence grows there. Part 3. The instruction that made no sense. After teaching the crowd, Jesus tells Peter, "Go into deep water and lower the nets again." From a human perspective, that instruction sounded unreasonable. Peter had already tried all night, and experienced fishermen knew daytime fishing was far less effective. Jesus was asking Peter to do something that contradicted his experience. And honestly, those moments are difficult, because people naturally trust what makes sense. Peter could have argued. He could have said, "I already failed. There is no point anymore." But instead, Peter says something powerful. "Because you say so, I will let down the nets." That sentence reveals real faith. Faith is not trusting only when circumstances look good. Faith is obeying even when the outcome is unclear. And throughout the Bible, God often asked people to move before they understood everything. Noah built an ark before rain came. Abraham left home without knowing the destination. Joshua walked around Jericho before the walls fell. Again and again, obedience came before understanding. And many people today struggle in those moments. It is difficult to trust again after disappointment, difficult to keep praying after silence, difficult to obey after failure. But Peter's story shows that previous failure does not mean future impossibility. One word from Jesus changed everything. Part 4. The breakthrough. Peter obeyed, and suddenly the nets filled with fish. Not a small catch. Overflow. Luke 5 says there were so many fish that the nets began to break. Another boat had to come help. Both boats became so full, they nearly sank. And this part of the story is important. The lake was the same. The nets were the same. Peter was the same fisherman. But the result changed completely. Why? Because Jesus became involved. And this is one of the clearest lessons in Luke 5. There are some breakthroughs effort alone cannot produce. Hard work matters. Discipline matters. Responsibility matters. But human ability still has limits. There are situations only God can change. Doors only God can open. Peace only God can provide. And many times, God allows human strength to fail before revealing His power clearly. Because when breakthrough happens in impossible conditions, people recognize God's hand more easily. Peter knew this catch made no logical sense. That is why his reaction became emotional. He understood this was not luck. Jesus had authority over what seemed impossible. And maybe this is where many people need perspective today. A delayed answer does not mean God abandoned you. Sometimes He is preparing you to recognize Him more deeply when the breakthrough finally comes. Part 5. The real miracle. One of the most surprising parts of Luke 5 is Peter's reaction after the miracle. He does not celebrate the fish first. Instead, he falls before Jesus and says, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." Why? Because the miracle revealed more than provision. It revealed Jesus. Peter suddenly understood he was standing before someone greater than an ordinary teacher. And this matters because miracles in Scripture were never only about solving temporary problems. They revealed God's authority. Jesus healed the blind, calmed storms, and raised the dead. But every miracle pointed back to who He was. And here in Luke 5, the fish were not the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle was Peter's transformation. He started seeing Jesus differently. Then Jesus tells him, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will catch people." In one moment, Peter's purpose changed forever. He started the night focused on survival. He ended the morning discovering calling. And that is important because many people chase success without purpose. They believe achievement will finally satisfy them. But even success feels empty without God. Peter realized something bigger than the blessing itself. Jesus was greater than the fish. That is why Luke 5 says they left everything and followed Him. They had just experienced the greatest catch of their careers. Yet they walked away from it because they discovered something greater. Part 6. Final message. Maybe right now you relate more to the beginning of this story than the ending. Maybe your nets feel empty. You are trying hard but seeing little result. You are praying, but answers feel delayed. You are tired of disappointment. If that is where you are, Luke 5 gives an important reminder. Do not quit too soon. Peter was close to walking away when Jesus stepped in. And often, breakthrough comes after the season that feels most discouraging. Not because God ignores pain, but because difficult seasons reveal where trust truly exists. Anyone can feel confident when life is easy. But faith grows strongest in uncertainty. And maybe today Jesus is saying the same thing he told Peter. Trust me one more time. Do not stop yet. Go deeper again. Jesus is not afraid of your exhaustion. He is not shocked by your failure. He already knows where you are. And still, he steps into the boat. Luke 5 reminds us that empty nets do not mean God has abandoned you. Sometimes they are preparation for deeper faith, stronger trust, and a breakthrough only Jesus can bring. And when that breakthrough finally comes, you realize something important. The greatest gift was never just the blessing. The greatest gift was meeting Jesus in the middle of the struggle. If this message spoke to you, comment, Jesus, I trust you even in empty seasons. And share this with someone who feels discouraged right now. Because one moment with Jesus can still change everything.